Greetings, YouTube. This morning I saw a video online called Ballad to the Monster Manual. I will put a link in the doobly-doo so that you can go marvel at the wonder of someone that wrote a song about the Monster Manual and created a music video to go along with it. Which got me thinking about the actual Monster Manual itself. Because I actually have a copy sitting right here in my office. Now, I love this book. I bought it when it was originally released, and I consider it to be one of my treasures in my my collection, as in all of my first edition books. I will never get rid of my first edition books. One of the things I loved about this so much was so many of these monsters have become iconic to the game of Dungeons & Dragons and to the fantasy genre of role-playing games at large. In addition, they've become very important to me as a GM and as a fan of fantasy creatures and art. For example, like the Axebeak, a giant flightless bird that was a terror on two legs. In real life, and I loved them in the game, I even used them as elven steeds during a first edition campaign for a particular elven culture. Then we have the basilisk, a classic monster. The Beholder, one of the absolute iconic and one of the monsters, and one of the few monsters that you can't use because Wizards of the Coast still owns the right to the Beholder, which is kind of sad. The Black Pudding and all the oozes and the jellies and things like that, they were so cool, they were so alien, and they were so darn dangerous. The Blink Dog, one of the few good monsters. The Brain Mole, not a lot of a brain mole, it's something you don't want to mess with, and you didn't want to. The Boulet, the classic land shark, which was also used in the Gamma World First Edition game, and I believe all the other editions also had that particular monster. The Carrion Crawler, a giant centipede that could paralyze you, and it was just so nasty looking. The Centaur, another classic Greek. Lots of Greek monsters in here, which is great because I've always loved them even before I started playing the game. The Chimera, the Cockatrice, the Coatl, one of the few other good monsters in the book, as an ally to the characters. And we have demons and devils. I never much liked them. I still don't use them ever. Not my thing. The Displacer Beast, creature that you couldn't tell where it was. Is it over there? No, it's actually over there. I thought that was a very cool idea, keeping your players guessing and making area of effect spells much more useful. The Doppelganger, which I'm probably not saying right because it's German. Are you talking to the person you think you're talking to, or is it someone completely different? The Dragoon, the lion-headed kind of dragon creature. The Dragon Turtle, which I always thought was cool and I used quite a few times when I didn't want something that was quite as dangerous as a dragon. Then you have things like the Elementals, which were so evocative. I loved them so much, and I still use Elementals quite frequently. The Floating Eye and the Eye of the Deep, so both really great, interesting creatures, kind of along the same lines as the Beholder. The Gargoyle, another classic monster. The Gelatinous Cube, which, if you ask me, is right up there with the Owlbear as two of the most iconic D&D monsters there are. A giant cube of jelly that goes down a corridor, specifically designed so that it fits the corridor perfectly. As I said, the oozes and the slimes. The Griffin, another classic Greek. The Hellhound, this giant dog that breathes fire. Now that is just a butt-kicking monster to throw at a party, especially when D&D was new. The Intellect Devourer, the Invisible Stalker, which of course has no illustration. The Jackalwere, reverse of a were, which I thought was a very cool. Lycanthrope turned on its head. The Kyrin, one of the other few good monsters, kind of a unicorn with an Asian slant. We have Giant Leech, normal animals like the leopard and the lion and the lizard. I always enjoyed the lizard man illustrations. I thought they were cool, particularly in the first edition. The Lurker above, and of course its counterpoint, the Trapper. Never know what's going to fall on your head or going to suck you in from beneath. The Manticore, with its tail that threw spikes. I thought that was great. I used to always save those things and make arrows and crossbow bolts out of them when I was a player. The Medusa, again, turning people to stone. It's a very popular theme in D&D Monsters. It doesn't kill you, but it's really inconvenient. The Naga, a little flavor from India. The Ogre Mage and the Ogre. Again, a European and an Asian version of the same creature. Of course, you have things like the Pixie and the Pseudo-Dragon, both which were very mercurial. Are they allies? Are they not? Are they causing mischief? I kind of like having creatures like that in the game. The Quasit, the only monster that was under the Qs. The Rakshasa, again, a little more Indian flavor, another shape changer. I always like shape changer. I think they're cool. The Roc, a bird so big it could dine on elephants. The Shidu, the Shrieker, of course the classic Skeleton. The Strangleweed. I mean, that's a great name for a monster, man. A Sylph. I had a ranger, high-level ranger, who actually married one of those in the first edition. A Thought Eater. The Giant Toad, which always makes my wife smile. The Umber Hulk and the Unicorn, the only two in the U category originally. Of course, the classic Vampire, which were actually terrifying and didn't glow and all sparkly in the sunlight. The Water Weird, another elemental creature which I always enjoyed using. The Wyvern, kind of the poor man's dragon, useful for mid-level characters. It was dangerous, but it wasn't going to wipe the entire party out with a single encounter. The Zorn, another elemental creature. The Yeti, and of course the classic, and the last entry in the book, the Zombie. Now, to show you that I have great love for classic monsters, this is a Thought Eater. It's a real lead miniature of a brain with legs, and yes, it actually sits on my desk all the time. And a giant slug. And no, I did not do the really poor paint jobs on these. Someone else did. I just happened to inherit them over time, so they were left at my house. But these things sit on my desk. These are real lead, man. You drop them on your toes, it's going to hurt. But I love the first edition Monster Manual. I consider it a cherished cornerstone of my collection. I will never get rid of any of my first edition books. The second edition stuff's almost all gone, but I love the first edition stuff. And anyone who doesn't have a copy of this book and you're a gamer, get one. It's worth the time, it's worth the effort, because it's a part of the history of the game that we love so much. And I think it really helps you appreciate how far we've come if you've seen where we've been. So get out there, man. Get a copy. Revel in the past and say thank you, Gary Gygax.